this morning, the explanation is an overall picture of different religious tradition and also secular ethics. Secular ethics, some people, some my friend, mainly some my Muslim friend, some Christian friend, you see, they they look secularism is something more like atheism. According to Indian understanding, not that way. Secular is actually respect, as I mentioned earlier this morning, respect all religions, and then one sort of unique thing is also respect non-believer. Actually, what's the secular ethics? Truthful, honest. Truthful, honest, very much related with mental level, more sense of concern of others' well-being. So genuine sense of concern of others' well-being, automatically there is sense of respect other. So there is no sort of attitude or thinking how to exploit other, how to bully, how to cheating. No. So one way, more compassionate sort of, mind really brings self-confidence. Self-confidence brings you always talk truthful, honestly, and transparent. So therefore, the real meaning of secular ethics is warm-heartedness. This also not necessarily come from religious faith. Dogs, cats, or birds. Firstly, they very much appreciate our sincere affection. Then they themselves also, you see, if we show them sincere sort of affection, they also showing us, respond us. They are sort of also the sincerity, some kind of affection. See, dogs, they have not much sort of ability. They can't smile. Only licking, if you do that. Very beautiful, isn't it? Then cat, also you see, I mean, they cannot smile, but if we do that way, then there are sound, korr, 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 like that. And then also you see there are sort of nail, not nail one way, a sharp nail, not that way, or something like that. And then, very beautiful. So these even animals, firstly, they very much appreciate our affection. Then, to some extent, they also have the ability to respond. So this is not come from religious faith, but a biological factor. Those animals, you see, so those animals, for their survival, you see, entirely depend on others' care, others' affection. Then this emotional level, is this sort of affection is automatically come, because it is necessary for their survival. Without mother's sort of affection, to their youngster, then mother will not take care. Without mother's care, they will die. So this is a question of their survival. So we inquired you, isn't it? But okay, no problem. On behalf of you, you see, the lamp. So, okay. so the warm-heartedness, sense of care, sense of sort of sense of concern of others' well-being is a biological factor. However, the biological factor, sort of the affection or love, is firstly very much oriented about others' attitude. So that kind of, sort of affection can develop only your friend, not your enemy, because the attitude of the enemy, the very reason they sort of harming you or hostile you, so we call enemy. So love, compassion, which oriented about others' attitude, that kind of, sort of compassion is you cannot reach your enemy. Now use our intelligence, including religious sort of concept. Then enemy or troublemaker also part of humanity. Actually, your human brothers, sisters. So regardless their attitude, they are human beings. They are human brothers, sisters. On that level, you see, we can extend our love, compassion, regardless their attitude. That animal cannot do. We only human being use intelligence. So firstly, once you develop firm conviction, the real compassion is really ultimate source of your own happiness and also source of happy family, happy community, all these things. Other hand, self-centered attitude, no concern about others' well-being, then cheating, bully, exploitation, then finally killing. War means sort of mobilized sort of violence, large scale. That's a war. War comes on the basis of strong sort of concept, we and they. Take care, we. Take care, us. They not only, because of not only not taking care, but also, you see, they no hesitate to beat, to kill, to eliminate. So a lot of problems which we are facing now, and including corruptions. Corruption also, I think, form of violence. When we talk ahimsa, these people, you see, who no hesitation about using corruption, I think should think more seriously about the real meaning, the larger meaning of concept of ahimsa. Not only killing or bully, or telling lies, and exploitation, and corruption, these are the form of violence. So we Indian, when we promoting ahimsa, must include honest, truthful. So the corruption is totally against principle of ahimsa. Clear? Like that. So therefore, You see, that cooler, air cooler, you just hide. Of course, I respect one sort of lady quite bit. I don't know, fat. So you also need that. Sorry. I always say I'm quite straightforward. So recently I was in Netherlands. So one of my long-time friend, one important sort of lady in Netherlands, overweight, very fat. And then I said, with respect, I also, you see, hinted the monk style, no dinner. Also, you see, may be useful. I told her. And she very much sort of appreciate. So anyway, so we really can see there are a lot of man-made problem on this planet. Killing, even within same religious faith, Shia Sunni problem, and also Christian Muslim problem. Recently, even Buddhist Islam or Muslim in Burma, and sometimes in Sri Lanka, Buddhist Hindu problems. These are really, I think there are, I think sometimes the real source of problem is economic reasons or political reasons. But at the same time, they use human emotion. Religious faith, very much related with emotion. So use the name of religion. Then easily manipulate. Very sad. So religious faith become very much sort of biased or too much attachment. So one time in Chile, Argentina, one meeting many years ago, one meeting with a religious leader, local religious leader, and also there one scientist, one great physicist. I know him. He mentioned the meeting. He's a physicist, but he should not develop attachment about his own scientific field. This is really wonderful. Then immediately I learned, or I felt, this is very true. I am Buddhist. I should not be attached towards Buddhism. Once you attached, then your view become biased. Then can't see the reality. So that's the problem. So there is sort of danger. Faith and attachment mixed. We must make clear. Faith based on reasons or genuine sort of, or say the unbiased faith is very, very important. Faith without attachment is very important. Similarly, love without attachment. That is genuine sort of love. That we can extend towards entire sentient being. Love mixed with attachment, biased, cannot extend to larger sort of, how should I say, scale like that. So, secular ethics, the real meaning of secular ethics is warm-heartedness and sense of concern of others' well-being on the basis, sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. That's secular ethics. Then automatically, their sort of way of life become honest, truthful. That eliminate fear, distrust, jealousy. That brings harmony and friendship and happy community, happy family, isn't it? So, the secular ethics, again, I think India's long tradition, so people, irrespective of whether believer or non-believer, secular ethics is related with entire human beings. Then one's individual who have real sort of conviction, the value of secular ethics, then religious or the tradition, then further sort of increase their ethics. Very good. Without that, the religious faith sometimes become biased and superficial like that. So, according to Indian understanding, secularism not at all negative towards religion, but rather very positive, and actually basis of all major religious tradition is secular ethics. I think secular ethics from birth related. As soon as we're born, the mother take full care. At the child's side also is full trust mother. So there's a biological factor, not come from religious faith. Clear? Yes? Okay, then explain.
जैसा कि हमने सुबह के सत्र में सभी परंपराओं के बारे में संक्षेप में वक्तव्य दिया, उसके बारे में बातचीत हुई तथा धर्मनिरपेक्षता के बारे में चर्चा हुई कि किस प्रकार से धर्मनिरपेक्षता अर्थात सर्वधर्म समभाव की जो भावना है, जो विचार है, वो किस तरह से होता है, वो संक्षेप में इसका वर्णन हुआ। मेरे कुछ मुस्लिम दोस्त भी हैं और वो ऐसा मानते हैं कि धर्मनिरपेक्षता का भाव ही सभी धर्मों का सम्मान कर सकता है। अर्थात सभी धर्मों में ये इस प्रकार की जो संभावना एक है उसमें ढूंढने को मिल सकती है। धर्मनिरपेक्षता सत्यता है, ये एक सत्य है कि धर्मनिरपेक्षता होनी चाहिए, इसके नकारा नहीं जा सकता है और दूसरों को समझना चाहिए और सम्मान करना चाहिए। अगर दूसरों को समझना चाहते हैं, सम्मान करना चाहते हैं तो केवल आप धर्मनिरपेक्षता अर्थात सर्वधर्म समभाव के द्वारा ही एक दूसरे को समझ सकते हैं। इसमें दूसरों को बर्बाद करना, दूसरों को नीचा दिखाना, बेवकूफ़ बनाना इत्यादि प्रकार की बातों की जगह नहीं है कि अगर कोई कहे कि मैं धर्मनिरपेक्ष हूँ या उसका पालन करता हूँ तो एक दूसरे का हम विरोध करें या बर्बाद करें, बेवकूफ़ बनाएं, तो इसमें ऐसी संभावना नहीं है। धर्मनिरपेक्षता का अर्थ एक दूसरे को साथ लेकर के एक दूसरे के साथ समभाव बनाने की ज़रूरत है। इसमें ईमानदारी, सत्यता और पारदर्शिता होनी बहुत ही परम आवश्यक है। अगर धर्मनिरपेक्षता में ईमानदारी, सत्यता और पारदर्शिता होगी तब हम कह सकते हैं कि वास्तविक सर्वधर्म समभाव अर्थात धर्मनिरपेक्षता है। और इसमें सर्वधर्म समभाव का अर्थ सभी धर्मों का सम्मान करना, एक जितने भी प्रकार के धर्म हैं उनका सबका सम्मान करना, किसी को नीचा ना दिखाना है। ये तभी संभव हो सकता है जब हमारा दिल अच्छा हो, मन अच्छा हो, तभी ये संभव हो सकता है। क्योंकि सभी लोग हमारी जो दयालुता है, प्रेम है, करुणा है, इसकी इच्छा रखते हैं। वो भी चाहते हैं कि हमें अमुक व्यक्ति से इस प्रकार की जो प्रेम या दयालुता है वो ये प्राप्त हो। तो हम लोग भी देख सकते हैं कि जानवरों में भी, अगर छोटे छोटे जानवर हैं तो उनको भी देखिए कि उनमें भी स्नेह होता है। अगर हम उनको प्यार से बोलें या उनके ऊपर प्यार से हाथ फिराएं तो वो धीरे धीरे चल के हमारे पास आ सकते हैं, खुशी जाहिर करते हैं। हालांकि वो अपने शब्दों में व्याख्या नहीं कर सकते, लेकिन फिर भी उनका जो शरीर है उससे देखा जा सकता है। ऐसा ही चाहे कुत्ते हो चाहे बिल्ली हो, ये आए दिन हम लोग देख सकते हैं कि किस प्रकार से जो हमारी स्नेहता प्रेम उसको किस प्रकार से अनुभव कर सकते हैं। इस प्रकार की जो भावना है, जिस प्रकार के जो शारीरिक जो गतिविधियाँ जो जानवरों में देखने को मिलती हैं वो किसी धर्म की वजह से नहीं होती, बल्कि एक शारीरिक बनावट अर्थात शारीरिक प्रेम की वजह से होती हैं। तो इसलिए जीवन जीने के लिए प्रेम की परम आवश्यकता होती है। अगर हम अपने जीवन को ठीक से जीना चाहते हैं तो प्रेम और स्नेह होना बहुत ही ज़रूरी होता है। जैसे एक उदाहरण के रूप में समझने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि अगर हमारे ऊपर माँ का स्नेह नहीं होगा, माँ का प्रेम नहीं होगा, तो शायद हम अपने जीवन को अच्छी तरह से नहीं जी सकते, शायद हम अपने जीवन को अच्छी तरह से आगे नहीं बढ़ा सकते। इसलिए जो स्नेह या प्रेम है वो बहुत ही ज़रूरत होती है। और अगर हमारा अच्छा हृदय होता है, अगर हमारी सोच विचार अच्छा होता है तो दूसरों के साथ व्यवहार भी अच्छा होगा। अच्छे हृदय से अच्छा व्यवहार बन सकता है। अगर हम ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा दोस्ती चाहते हैं, ज़्यादा दोस्त बनाना चाहते हैं, तो प्रेम ही ऐसी एक जड़ है या प्रेम ही ऐसे एक रास्ता है जिससे हम बहुत सारे दोस्तों को बना सकते हैं, लोगों को दोस्त बना सकते हैं। अगर हम दूसरों से स्नेह करेंगे, प्रेम करेंगे तो दोस्त बनेंगे, ना कि दुश्मन। हम दुश्मन उसे कहते हैं जो अगर मुझे कोई नुकसान पहुंचाता है, मुझे हानि पहुंचाता है, तो उसे हम दुश्मन कहते हैं, दुश्मन की संज्ञा देते हैं। तो अगर जो कोई मुझे लाभ पहुंचाता है, हानि नहीं पहुंचाता, उसे हम दोस्त कहते हैं। तो धर्म के अनुसार अगर हमारे अंदर प्रज्ञा है, धर्म के अनुसार अगर सोचा जाए, अगर हम ज्ञानवान हैं, अगर हमारे अंदर प्रज्ञा है, तो उसका अच्छी तरह से उपयोग करना चाहिए और अच्छी तरह से किस प्रकार से हम स्नेहपूर्वक जीवन जी सकते हैं, एक दूसरे से लगाव रख सकते हैं, सीखने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए। तो अगर जहाँ तक दुश्मन की बात की जाए कि दुश्मन कौन होते हैं, दुश्मन भी मनुष्य होते हैं। तो उन लोगों को भी स्नेह की आवश्यकता होती है, उनको भी प्रेम की आवश्यकता होती है। हालांकि सभी सत्वों में, सभी जीवों में इस चीज़ की परम आवश्यकता होती है और एक दूसरे को दिखाते भी हैं। लेकिन जहाँ तक जानवरों में देखा जाए तो उनके अंदर इस प्रकार की जो भावना है, इस प्रकार की स्नेह की जो स्नेह दिखाने या फिर दूसरों को दिखाने की भावना होती है, उनके अंदर ज़्यादा न होकर के कम होती है, लेकिन उनमें भी इस प्रकार की भावना देखने को मिलती है। तो सबसे पहले हमें अपने आप में स्नेहपूर्ण व्यक्ति बनना चाहिए, फिर उसके बाद परिवार में एक दूसरे से प्यार करना चाहिए, समाज में प्यार करना चाहिए, देश के लोगों से प्यार करना चाहिए। अगर हम इस प्रकार क्रम से अपने प्रेम अर्थात स्नेह को बढ़ाते जाएंगे तो ये जो हम खुशी की या सुख की कामना करते हैं इससे प्राप्त हो सकती है। अगर हमारी सोच संकुचित होगी तो हम दूसरों को दुख देंगे और खुद दुखी होंगे। इसलिए अपनी सोच को बड़े रूप में करने की आवश्यकता है। युद्ध आए दिन झगड़े या युद्ध होने की वजह है कि मैं और मेरी की जो जटिल भावना है, मैं और वे, मैं और दूसरे की जो जटिल भावना हमारे अंदर हो जाती है, इसकी वजह से युद्ध होते हैं, इस वजह से झगड़े होते हैं। क्योंकि हम उन्हें दुश्मन समझते हैं, ये मेरा है, ये पराया है, इस प्रकार की भावना जब अंदर आ जाती है तो युद्ध शुरू हो जाते हैं, झगड़े शुरू हो जाते हैं। और दूसरों को हराना चाहते हैं, उन्हें नीचा दिखाना चाहते हैं, अपने को श्रेष्ठ दिखाना चाहते हैं, इस वजह से युद्ध होते रहते हैं। तो भ्रष्टाचार भी, जहाँ तक भ्रष्टाचार को देखा जाए, वो भी एक प्रकार की हिंसा है, हिंसा का रूप है। तो अहिंसा का अगर सही रूप देखना चाहते हैं, वास्तविक रूप देखना चाहते हैं, तो ये भ्रष्टाचार से मुक्त होना चाहिए, तभी हम समझ सकते हैं कि ये अहिंसा है। अगर भ्रष्टाचार होगा तो एक प्रकार का वो भी अहिंसा, एक प्रकार की हिंसा होती है। झूठ बोलना, लोगों को परेशान करना या फिर दूसरे लोगों को बेवकूफ़ बनाना इत्यादि प्रकार का भी एक भ्रष्टाचार का रूप है। ये भी कह सकते हैं कि ये भी एक भ्रष्टाचार है। दूसरों को दमन करना, दूसरों का अधिकार छीनना भी भ्रष्टाचार होता है। इसलिए भ्रष्टाचार का सिद्धांत और अहिंसा का सिद्धांत एकदम विपरीत है। हम अगर अहिंसा की बात करें, अगर हम भ्रष्ट हैं और अहिंसा की बात करें तो शायद इसका मेल नहीं होगा। हमें वास्तव में इस धरती पर अगर हम देखें तो हम लोग इस धरती पर, इस दुनिया में अनंत प्रकार की समस्याएं से जूझते हैं। अन्य प्रकार की समस्याएं हमें रोज़ हमारे जीवन में आती रहती हैं, सामना करते हैं। जैसे कि आज धर्म के रूप में देखा जाए, आए दिन मुस्लिम समाज जो है उसमें शिया और सुन्नी दो समुदाय के लोग एक दूसरे झगड़े करते रहते हैं। क्रिश्चियन धर्म में भी दो प्रकार के समुदाय, उनमें भी झगड़े होते रहते हैं। और इसके अतिरिक्त भी कुछ एक साल पहले या आजकल भी बौद्ध धर्म में देखा जाए कि बर्मा में बौद्ध धर्म और मुस्लिम धर्म के लोगों के साथ भी झगड़े हुए। श्रीलंका में भी इस प्रकार के कुछ धर्म को लेकर के या धर्म अनुयायियों लोगों के बीच में भी झगड़े हुए। इस प्रकार की जो समस्याएं हैं वो समस्याएं ठीक नहीं होती। तो ये झगड़े कभी कभी तो हो सकता है कि आर्थिक दृष्टि से हों, या फिर कभी कभी देश की हिसाब से भी झगड़े होते रहते हैं, या फिर कभी कभी हमारी भावनाओं को ठोस पहुंचती है उस वजह से भी झगड़े होते रहते हैं। और ज़्यादातर धर्म के अगर झगड़े देखे जाएं तो धर्म के प्रति बहुत ज़्यादा श्रद्धा होने की वजह से भी झगड़े हो जाते हैं। क्योंकि उसके प्रति बहुत ज़्यादा आसक्ति पैदा हो जाती है, अपना मेरा धर्म ऐसा मानने की वजह से उसमें बहुत ज़्यादा लगाव उत्पन्न हो जाता है। इस वजह से भी झगड़े होने लगते हैं। तो हाल ही की बात है, अर्जेंटीना में बैठक के दौरान उसमें वैज्ञानिक लोग थे, पढ़े लिखे लोग थे, भौतिक शास्त्री लोग थे और बहुत सारे लोग उसमें थे। तो उसमें से एक वैज्ञानिक ने कहा कि मैं अपने क्षेत्र में कुशल हूँ, मैं इसमें काफ़ी ज्ञान रखता हूँ, समझता हूँ, लेकिन मैं कभी भी अपने क्षेत्र में आसक्ति नहीं रखता, इसके प्रति लगाव नहीं रखता कि मेरा ये क्षेत्र है, मेरा ये विभाग है, इस प्रकार की आसक्ति नहीं रखता हूँ। क्योंकि अगर मैं आसक्ति रखूँगा तो शायद उसकी जो सत्यता है उसको ठीक से नहीं समझ सकता। उसके बाद मैंने भी, जब ये वैज्ञानिक ऐसा वक्तव्य दे रहे थे तो मैंने भी ऐसा सोचा और समझा कि वास्तव में श्रद्धा या विश्वास अगर बहुत ज़्यादा रखेंगे तो थोड़ी सी मुश्किल हो सकती है। तो श्रद्धा का मतलब यहाँ आसक्ति नहीं रखना चाहिए। आज ज़्यादा आसक्ति होने की वजह से ये धर्म का अभ्यास करने में भी खतरा हो सकता है। तो इसलिए मैंने प्रण किया कि धर्म का अभ्यास करते हुए बिना आसक्त किए मैं धर्म का पालन करूँगा। इसलिए बिना आसक्ति का प्यार होना चाहिए। अगर हम किसी से प्यार या स्नेह करते हैं तो उसमें लगाव या फिर बहुत ज़्यादा आसक्ति नहीं होनी चाहिए। अगर आसक्ति रहित प्रेम है तो वो सच्चा प्रेम होता है। धर्मनिरपेक्षता का सच्चा अर्थ अच्छा हृदय होना होता है। अगर हमारा हृदय अच्छा है तो हम कह सकते हैं कि धर्मनिरपेक्षता का सर्वधर्म समभाव की जो सिद्धांत है वो यहाँ पर लागू हो सकता है, अर्थात समझ सकते हैं। आज इस दुनिया में लगभग 7 अरब की जनसंख्या आबादी है, और अगर इस आबादी में हम सभी लोग अपने व्यक्तिगत रूप से समझें कि सभी लोग मेरे जैसे हैं, मेरे जैसा हृदय है, जो मैं चाहता हूँ उस तरह से हो जाए, अर्थात एकता की भावना अगर आ जाती है तो उसे हम सच्चा सर्वधर्म समभाव कह सकते हैं। मगर घृणा, तृष्णा इत्यादि या फिर दूसरे से जलन, एक दूसरे से क्रोध इत्यादि की वजह से सर्वधर्म समभाव की जो भावना है वो हमारे अंदर उत्पन्न नहीं होती है। भारत में धर्मनिरपेक्षता का अर्थ है, यहाँ भारत का जो संविधान भी बना हुआ है वो भी धर्मनिरपेक्षता अर्थात सर्वधर्म समभाव के सिद्धांत के अनुसार ही बना हुआ है। और इसी वजह से भारत में सारे धर्मों के में जो देखने की समानता है समान रूप से देख सकते हैं। तो इसलिए मैं कहता हूँ कि सबसे पहले जो आपकी सिद्धांत हैं, जो भारत का सर्वधर्म समभाव का सिद्धांत है, उसको बढ़ाना चाहिए, उसको अच्छी तरह से समझना चाहिए। क्योंकि भारतीय जो संविधान है उस संविधान में भी धर्मनिरपेक्षता का कोई बड़ी सकारात्मक रूप से कहा गया है, बड़े ही पॉजिटिव रूप से कहा गया है कि इसको पालन करने से, इसके अनुसार चलने से किस प्रकार से हम अपने जीवन को अच्छा बना सकते हैं या किस प्रकार से हम दूसरों के साथ सही ढंग से रह सकते हैं। धर्मनिरपेक्षता का सिद्धांत या सर्वधर्म समभाव का सिद्धांत केवल देश पर ही आधारित न होकर यहाँ तक कि देखें हमारे जो माँ बेटे अर्थात परिवार के पिता, माँ बेटा या बेटी के साथ भी संबंध सर्वधर्म समभाव के अनुसार ही होना चाहिए। एक दूसरे के साथ संबंध भी इस प्रकार से अगर हो तो कहीं जा कर के सच्चा सर्वधर्म समभाव की भावना हो सकती है।
Now about Buddhism. I think now I speak Tibetan. 다 산지 좀 된 데기 다 추주 이 조들도가 지금 다른 것이 로스 쉬는 시리 가다 지금 셈리야 정다전에 로스 장대 아니 로즘기 봐줘야지 세상가 라랑기 아니 가서 우리 보게 대화 주야다 동에서야 해야지 자 아니 디두기 규디 아니 다 지금 자주라 투den에 지금 판별정신 시안의 판별정신 자주디 상부체 개화체 시안의 뇌베지 자주디 냠바체 다 자주성 레 karmaslo나 레 맞아 다디 조에네 꿀lun부터 안에 배나 차와도 차면 봤어야 돼 타르도나 삼로를 투주고 그래 샴페인걸로 여버지면 이나 치 지금 류가가 넘주 수르지베 이네 데 차면 봤죠 그래서 꿀lun디 지금 낙심 내심 고고 루치 된데기다 꿀lun지 그 신세 여베 이나 치 넘주 배 가서 시시 투어 배 이동한 집에 있네 다나 차차 되게 하래 서들이 인도산에 다조 삼로리가 도르고 알아 지금 자주 상해서 자오 도서디 삼로 도되지 다들이 인도산에 다좀 된데기 디송도가 tumnum tibu chui mitrushing roya dunga chaga misila niji tokpa shana pomindi chuni tempa tempe choin joro songde dunga mindu dewan debe ane simjen ki ane dunga di pe chaga saya ya maris dunga ki ju tikpa di chui chuya ya maris 대신도 좀 되는데 랑게 투유를 여대be 빵도가 연된디 두질마 진야야 말이지 다 좀 된데기 컨디션이 미리 판단된 것을 봐이나 좀 된데 정리기 뭐로바 남지 내거네 송어지기 배 간다직 심 뒤에 르버 멍구지다 냠신 나네 된데기 타네 애니베 빵도 타신 버지 다 중대버지 된데기 다 냠용 거 타네 밀마니 가서 보겠다. 랑도가 내더니. 다 하다 랑도가 내더be 거네. 아니 뒤지 규기 간다지기니 녀몬다 대 아니 그냥 랑베지 레디디 봐 매바차체. 도신다. 아니 네거를 더도 근데 줘야지. 용기하리스 다 디송이 버리. 직접
भगवान बुद्ध का धर्म क्या है इसके बारे में संक्षेप में सुबह में वर्णन हुआ
So with regard to the teaching of the Buddha, as I said this morning, the main teaching of the Buddha, Bhagavan Buddha, is how to train your mind and transform and gradually transform your mind. And therefore, what we call as pain and pleasure have their own causes. And those causes which bring about happiness in others and are positive, and then those causes which bring about harm to others is called bad negative karma. In other words, karma means action, and so whether a cause that action becomes a positive or negative hinges on motivation, our motivation. And therefore, an action which might apparently look like harsh or rough towards others, but basically when the motivation is to help someone, to a positive one, then those actions also could be considered non-violent or not harmful actions, whereas certain actions which might look nice, pleasant to others, apparently, but then if the motivation is to cheat to others or to with that kind of ulterior motivation, if you do those actions, then even those are could be considered negative. Therefore, positive and negative actions are very much dependent on our motivation, and therefore, in the case of all our pain and pleasure, the Buddha has said that the Buddhas or the sages, the great sages, do not wash away the sins of sentient beings. They do not the sufferings, and they do not take away the sins, and nor do they transpose their realizations into others. But how do they help others is by giving teaching from the Buddha's own experience, how to avoid what are the negative causes and then how to take up the positive ones. And so in this way to gradually transform our mind and finally reach the ultimate goal of happiness.
년가 쇼스는 러야기 룩수 야마레 서좀데 정리기 투소 뭐도 소 때문에 좀 주고도 좀 되게 나와서지 이렇게 숨도 봐 인터넷에 지금 사람이 이제 뒤져진 저기 총고 코로나 센터 쉬니 도스는 이제 유와르나슬이야 아니 총고 코로나 이번에 다 뒤에 걸려 좀 되게 주로 총고도 당고 송인도잖아요 다 담바시사의 송도가 다들 담바시 의 송단들이 아니 dinner to come up with the mo shisogi, dinshi, ngol tamba, ngol and deva. Then, Dungan shivers of Kunju Powers shisogi, any chawar and deva. Then, Dungan shivers of the Shiva Charmin shisogi, any chawar debu the chawar and devas and devasum, dukse sundua. denshi sungdan jikpa redi, josha denshi redi, ine tangu digi, dambashi dili re seni, kaso re, ngoyo nizu di maa jik sung. Tene ta ngoyo nizu di iba ina, ta diga na langdor jukdo kandas chago resi na, ene dungen shiebar cha, kunjung pahar cha seni, enda da shine chöchidan sungu yore. 랑도 치단도 숨겨야래. 다 최스로도 랑도 거 등겨야봐. 다전에 동해시버시도 시버 참면 시속이 저원 저부터 잡을 내가 써야 되기. denshila 랑도 죽도 잖아. 아니 기만 가려야래. 저부 가르 타야야 그랬어. 다전에 저원 저부터 잡을 내가 써야 돼서. 또 나가 슝드스 나라. 아니 시내수 시 lam devotion she nesuchi she nesu teta deni ani langdor cheak langdor lamni shine chi kombar rimrichnen rade lamche tela dene ani apangdo be tarchimshi yunguri stadi devoche 지사 안데 ngolon debe jela 동해 시버 차스 동해 시 군중방 고봉도 차 람kombar 차스니 죽도 송니 대달 제베이나 아니 동해 타다 세버 그게 빵 투어 중국에 인도 진짜긴 제보고도 제가 그돌라 동해 라라 이니 셔버차요 말이 군중 라라 빵차요 말이 고바 뭐도 제스베처라 라라 뭐도 차요 말이 근데 람 곰네 고바 타르치베 내가 올라 라라 이니 고야요 말이 스타티 숨도가 사다 디시람 데우사디 디 가르딘 것을 러버이나 처징네 아니 지금 대화도 동에서 니가로 규도 깨내는 영화를 했으니 군제 된주사도 송래 버티트 스무 반다 자다 산제베 추 투모모이부터 들려도 와 버티트 스무 반다 사기 될래 군제기 된주사 지겨래 다 지송도 와 디다네 디두사디 규도 깨내는 영화를 해서 디송 다전에 다들 인도 대부동에 레 타르거나 대부동에기 규디 짜잖니 규들을 냠부때니 규디 방고요 그래서 규디 방나 규대왕 그 주인 대부들이 타르그레스 고학된서야지 아주 디긴 되기야래 안다끔들 고학된 게 대화서야지 소화되게 좀 말해 동해야기 규 싸워내 봐지 뻥투어 주나 아니 단도 대화 잡으래 진짜들라 아니 gyukangshi drebu jaya ga nipa yodeba te nyambu jebe toki kaane gobar cheba sachita gobar cheba takata nyambu jebe toki ga songa ta tela gobar saktowa oda te lar ene mindibe dunge ta dunge da dunge ki gyuti lar kimirungdu cheba chigi nyambu jebe toki gokten sache ta dinde chigi ene 톱도 롱 톱롱이 뭐 근데 통인도잖아요 딱대 톱에 털 람리야 로비야기 아니 배주자다 되니들 이거 봐 디베디 잡은 거 규라면 나라 내는 세자 내지 주는 방자라 대내 톱서 맨에 땜벌 자왔다 동에 주도 된거 보다 대신람 세자 방자 레버샤시 땜벌 자스 릭마다 릭바 레버这其实嘛，这个是代表啥是说呢？行，我觉得是啥？这这里印度澳洲的那个电视全国的送一不的。我也不知道，你记了的。
भगवान बुद्ध ने बुद्ध की बात करने के तुरंत बाद धर्म का उपदेश नहीं दिया भगवान बुद्ध का जो विनय था जो विनय प्रचार
So with regard to the teaching of the Buddha,
बिना धर्म का उपदेश
Buddha himself, of course, didn't give teaching right away after becoming enlightened, until he was requested teachings, and therefore in the Vinaya Sutra, in the Vinaya teachings, the Buddha has actually said that unless someone comes to you and requests for the teaching, you should not go forward saying that you are going to give teaching. And therefore this is also what the Buddha himself did. After getting enlightenment, until he was requested by gods and other humans, he didn't give any teachings to others. And therefore, at the request of Brahma and others, then he first gave the teaching in Varanasi. The teaching of the wheel of the Dharma was turned. And so during that teaching, he gave the teaching on the Four Noble Truths. And so regarding the Four Noble Truths, the teaching was given in 3 times. First, repeating or talking about, referring to its nature, and that this is suffering, this is the cause, the origin of suffering, this is cessation, and this is the path. And then after having said that, he went on to give teaching on the same Four Noble Truths, but emphasizing on the function of these. In other words, he said we should know suffering and overcome the origin of suffering and actualize cessation, and then cultivate the path. And then after having said that, what is the purpose of this teaching is that after knowing the nature of this suffering and so forth, then what we should do is taught secondly, and then the Buddha gave the teaching on the Four Noble Truths with regard to the result that the practices bring, avoiding negative actions and so forth, overcoming the origin, we can put an end to the suffering, and then actually by applying or cultivating the path, that we can actually actualize this true cessation within ourselves. And therefore he said at the end, during the third set of this turning of the wheel of the Four Noble Truths, he said there is no suffering, but there's nothing to be known, and overcome the origin of suffering, but there is nothing to be overcome, and then one should actualize the cessation, but there's nothing to be actualized, and then we must cultivate the path, but there's nothing to be cultivated. So what this means is that what the Buddha was saying is that once you reach the goal of cessation and having overcome suffering and so forth, I mean, of course, there's nothing left to be overcome. Therefore, he says, once you fully understand what suffering is directly, then there's nothing to be known. Once you have overcome the suffering completely, then there's nothing to be overcome. Once you have actualized the cessation, the final goal of liberation, in other words, there's nothing to be actualized. And then once you have cultivated the path fully, there's nothing to be cultivated. as such. And so because of this, he gave the teaching of the Four Noble Truths for the third time, pertaining to the results that is brought about by engaging in the practices. And so, with regard to these Four Noble Truths, what is shown is that the suffering and its causes have their own. Suffering has its own causes. Our pain and pleasure, in other words, have their own causes and conditions, and the cessation and the path that brings about it have also to do with the working of the causality. And therefore, when we understand that pain and pleasure, suffering has its causes, and therefore, once you understand that it's fully, then there's nothing to be cultivated. The suffering will not arise in oneself once you have overcome it completely. And so, what this means is that once you understand what cessation is, how you reach this goal of cessation, there's nothing to be reached or cultivated. In other words, so in the Maitreya Buddha also said, use the analogy of sickness, its cause, and then the taking medicine, and then the recovery of one's health.
간다 이니 미다서 주루사 되기 loksu 다 시 미다발라 딱벌 샴바 동엘라 대월 샴바 미장월라 장월 샴바 에니 가래 다음에 발라 다도 샴바 쓰네 진짜기다 loksu 주루송도가 규미도 집어다 시 가다와 진짜지베다 지금 이거 나이 챙기면도 저는 어다 된저 loksu 주루체네 데이터 그게 냠보로 서울다 데 동다 에노 미다서 주도 송제 다 되는 인도산에 다 도마 지금 미상원도 장원심바 달라되네 착바지야 아니 다가는 시기에 미상원도 장원심바 숙성부 옆에 거돌이야 아니 대직 응징진 되게 터네 아니 딱버다와로 대주터네 아니 아주 친지로 로드도 되든 대바 친지로 대바도 게임도가 근데 이동을 통해서네 디베트 시부지기에 다다뭐 이동을 봐 다 디베 딱 어쩌면 여러 된데 타네 그 착배 녀문 게야로 다가는 신이 지금 시단자이네 유체 믿고 디베트 라오 믿고 배 유진근에 믿고 배 시우진도 통 대한데 내 와시버지기 하다 뒤지한다 아메리게 미싱 강에 채팅에서 매주징이 지기 생리부지기 코나 다 들이켜서 냐만가 콩토베 그돌로 로지 접시리 다 들이켜서 로 구주거든 내도가 콩한테 쇼야라서 그거 중지 제거 삼전데 콩 로지 접시 그돌로 가 사실 토브리 들으잖아 콩기스도 콩가 대비지 돼서 전혀 콩기 미 셰단 람베 그돌로 셰단 랑세 유디 치 미두고 통구야레스 디 치 미두고 통대하기 미두고 자적 고주디 남도가 서버리스 뭐이니 좀 말했어 콩디스기 단디 고불루루기 아니 자셔나래 다랑 송야래 녀몽 계단생에 취미이지 남도 유상년도 줬다니 아니 차단기그래 송야 세브샤르샤티 라샤도 다들 인도산에 어다 간다이니 미상월로 싸워신 아니 된저기는 딱버지별로 된저 연구해 인도산에 다 잠반이샤 시사 되게 냐라 류 잠반이샤스네 류 미상와 지금 미상에 소주사 된저기다 리베런 신이 봐봐 지금 이동 컨디션에 있네 파티 지금 교모 제부 컨디션을 딱 보이나야 가다 미상월에 주등에 미상의 정신 된저지 인도 통일도산에 가서 입도 속도 카도도 렉셔트넬레 시우지게 배 싸운진벨 착바디하고라 팽글바 엔디 계지 직배 등이 봐. 메다고 통인도 자네. 다디 제리샤 가자. 류 전반시 상담다니 동해 담발은 죽었어. 소 전반시 상담다니 군중. 에 소 대두를 때네 소 대화라 민정원들 세바. 소 동해라 자원들 세바. 다 된지기니 간다베 차단기야 세바 니부도 슬레고도 와. 센터디 가서 드시 직시 시시르베 데 원조단데 저는 순다다 남들은 순다 또 메다시도게 이거다 또 메다치 자 첸이 또 간다 데 초 대화라 민정원들 세바 초 동에라 자원들 세바 아니 초 당뇨로 가서 시시사르 첸이와 다 도시고래 다디기 류 잡아니샤 초 잡아서 상담다니 군중 차단 걸로 뒤들 봐 그게 가서 로정단지 되네 심 잡아니샤 상담이잖아요 심 깨지기 도서 두르신체 깨지긴 직도 하시러 왔다 아니 그 도서 상담이잖아요 아니 넘버십에 규세네 르춘네 타녀도 작별거는 샤마도 거봐 그로 상담이나 직다 데모 타다 주슨 쓰고리 아니 투숨 샤니도잖아요 대바는 가사리 마음번이 중주리 다 다다왔어야지. 마다 마셔병하는 샤나 다다와 샤도도 따시잖아 다다와니 하면도 와. 배는 계시지 보이나 배는 계시 나마디 대바리 야마리 계시 치면디 기규리 안다 세리고 뭐 주요 말한다. 아니 다다와디에 까르마다 까르샤다 까르마다 까르샤시는 바바 처음 보이나 다다와니 하면도 와. 까르샤 참을 갈 집에 있는 치 대바리 치 마음버리 다다면도 와. 그래서 두 sometimes 안에 아니 강사서야 돼. 시베 줄을 때는 딱 버리. 강을 때는 딱왜 시코라 짜요는 니규메도 차인도 안에 아니 다도 다와선 걸로 또 구조된 것이도 와. 그래서 들이 이랬다. 다다 차라면 그 샤 도그로 보다. 다도 다와 차라면 그 샤 그러 봐. 어디를 샤 세상가 미다 말에 류 잡아니셔 초와 잡아니셔 심 잡아니셔 아니 달라되는다 지기 군인 요문 초기 년별 초디디 가서 당도 낸 거야다 군인 요문 초디디 바다 당도 밀려버쳐야디디 아니 최 잡아니셔 가는 얘기도가 세상가 잡아니셔시 담바시를 죽다한테 대실래요도 근데 지금 예바로 타윈도잖아 아니 다 배수시하게 되니래는 거로 와. 쟤네 양다 봉시. 다 도세네 아니 준주고 도로 깨니. 쟤네 로장야 아니 무튼이 야고 잡아이나 아니 두베주기 강보라서 된지기다 띵인지들이 주야. 된지들보다 내가 잡아채니 시르고 보겠다 인루 잡아채네 성을 보게 해봐 도대받다 아니 제시베 띵인진 게 보게 믹체 띵인진 보게 조금 전에 가다 짠조 조금도 조금 숨지신데 도스 다 고민도 전에 다 될래야 아니 가서 저거디 다소 온봉하스다 토마다 가다 검제 된텔라 아니 이 다음에 다 대봐 대 되니까 누버지 대번 누버 아니 되는 참바 띵인지 싫었어야 되게 대소 온봉가 동마 되는 정주연라 된 팔라연라 제사디도 선례고도 간다 띵시 남샤디디 시베체 다 디도네 아니 차당 그걸로 리아 녀못단다디도 선례고래 다디 아니 발리기 중국감네 냠네스나디들이 렉자가 주문 알아이네 창조 소득 남그 싸우러 차듯이 댐바시도 장소 소득 남들이 싸우래 간다 좀 된 얘기 아니 대시 총고 송셔버디 산제베 최기 좀으로 돼 알라베 소리를 해 점자 남배 소리지.
So, with regard to the Four Noble Truths, within the Four Noble Truths, we have the four characteristics of the Four Noble Truths. They each have their four characteristic features, such as the Four Noble Truths. The first Noble Truth, the suffering, Noble Truth of suffering, has the four characteristics of impermanence, and then called suffering, and then empty, being empty, and empty of any purity, and then selflessness. Whereas, as opposed to these, we usually cling on to this impure body as being pure and so forth, and then accordingly develop attachment to it. And then from this, what happens is when you are too attached to it, then you develop the sense of its permanence, that it's eternal and so forth, and therefore you have this wrong notion of something which is permanent as being permanent, and then also that something which is in the nature of suffering as being blissful or joyful or pleasant and so forth. And then accordingly you also develop that there is some kind of independent selfhood in it. And so in this way we have these four wrong notions of the first noble truth of suffering. And because of this desire that we develop in relation to this kind of body, which is impure, seeing it as having some kind of objective existence, that it's something that is desirable and so forth, you develop desire. And because of this desire also, when you see that and also when you get angry at somebody, it is because you hold on to that person or thing as having some kind of objective existence, and being hostile to you and so forth, objectively and so forth. And therefore, you see the person as hostile or something undesirable, and then developed anger or hatred towards them. And so one of my friends, an American psychiatrist, Aaron Beck, has once told me that when you become angry at somebody, actually what happens is the mind sees the other person to be totally negative. But 90% of that is one's own mental projection. There's no negativeness in the person, total negativeness as such, but 90% of it is our own mental projection. And this is exactly what Master Nagarjuna also has mentioned when he says that our our karma and delusions arise from our wrong kind of mentation, some kind of inappropriate mentation. And so it's exactly as what Master Nagarjuna has said. And so in connection with the Four Noble Truths, we can also do the meditation on called what are known as the 37 the practice, do the 37 practices on the 37 factors of enlightenment. And so with regard to these 37 factors, the first are the four establishment of mindfulness. And so with regard to that now, the first is the mindfulness of one's body. And so mindfulness of body, with that what you see is the cause of this body that we have, and then its nature and so forth, and therefore what it gives rise to and so forth. And when you see these conditions of the body itself, what it has come from, where it has come from, and its causes, and what it's like, and so forth, then you won't have that kind of attachment towards the beauty and the shape and the color and the feature and so forth of the body as such. And therefore, with that understanding, then you will see that the practice of mindfulness of body, developing the mindfulness body, is with that you see the suffering nature of the body. And And then, with regard to feeling, the mindfulness of feeling, what you see is that whereas when you have some kind of a sensation, undesirable sensation, you want to get rid of it. But while you want to get rid of it, there is a sense of attachment to that wishing, to that wish to get rid of this undesirable sensation. And similarly, there is this craving for desirable sensation or feeling as well. And so you should see this feeling as having no permanence, and with that, then when you understand the feeling has nothing nothing permanent, and because you want to get rid of the undesirable ones, and then the desirable ones are that what you want actually to develop, but then you see that there is no permanence in it. And then similarly it is the case with mind. And then through the is that when you check the mind and the body being impermanent, and then you see that there's no soul or no permanence and no independent existence of a self as well. And so through that, then you want to develop the antidote towards these wrong notions and of the body and mind and so forth, and then you develop the rest of the 37 practices or factors to enlightenment.
Tene parvati shijing shumche. Ta tene kolo tamachi songyari. Ta dodi kondri rang nala kolo tamadi. Dodi kondri rangi kolo tamala ngunzi chayni. Do songyari te. Ta jir dodi kondri kolo sumsungwa na shigi kolo tangbo, kolo parwa, kolo sumba sahaji yabache. Kolo sumbe senshi shayin du zane. 뭐지 너도 광제 레디 이네 조조데 아니 데 규라메 셰자 자웨도 아니 디시시베 닝분도 사디 머레 어떤 너디 거블 아니 지 콜로 발베크도라 유지에서 춘이데 지심바 땅라 다 디시베 닝분 더qabla 캄 디시 닝부 세하게 답게 천시로 쉬어야 쪼디 유전 외세기 때문에 상당고요. 유지에서 좀 마법에 심지 주니까래 리크타네 송고요래. 이제 쪼쪼 지 상동서디 심 단동 샤야게 심 코랑 게 때문에 다 정말로 보고 주야지. 내가 관심도 와. 다들 콜로 디시비 닝분도 콜로 타메 될도고. 디시비 닝분도 거라 디송도. 사실은 콜로 당부 거라 대시 자산지가 좀 송. 근데 시신의 더거도라 대신 난게 과거에 담바서야지 컨디션을 톱톱이야 봐. 과거에 때문에 뭐 컨디션 뭐 과거에 뭐 컨디션 봐. 디디 지침을 송야. 대전 전에 아니 군중기 녀모배 군중기 남이 십시 차와지 태는 거야. 가르슬라나 군중 자와도 머리버리. 근데 시보콜로 창가바 송네 되게 때에 하나 주인 송이되잖아요. 통만 머리버서 태는 거도가. 저 산제배 최근 안에 동해가 자와 가르슬라 동해가 자와도 미시버리스. 디송도. 저다 드리는잖아요. 미시베 남샤 지침버지 셔야래야 그 인루도 셔오르다. 그래서 미시버를 니샤네. 균제를 몸에 미시버 찍다. 대코나니는 몸에 미시버 찍. 균제를 몸에 미시버냐 코에 자와디 대코나니는 몸에 머리버 되게 자용화 인도잖아요. 되게 한다 쉬야기. 아니 취미 이제 남도 그 조다야 그 자와디 유 담버진베 덴진디 자용이어디 세비스타데. 자, 드리면 인도산에 더기시하게 취미지가 남도게 병의원 내줄래 책 결지게 상당하라 남도가 조다하게 시절고 차단지서 유트다데 파르문에 여대봐 랑은에 여대봐 지금 로라 낭나도 셴니 딘제기다 댄징기 잡아 대네 취미지가 남도 깨네 줬다기도 사비사라도가 되기 쉬어야돼 미도 자정 굽슈타마 남도가 줬다버렸으나다 아메리카 센지버디 송다 아까 찍고 차대기요 아래 그래서 드리버 인도산에 어다 미시버 균제를 먹고 미시버디 싸토서디 대코는이는 뭐 머리버디 지기버 인도산에 대코는이는 뭐 머리버 세버지 쉐발라 대코는 이게 인루 그리버디 쉐고요 아래 디 시신기 슝 나로라 지시버 송요도 뭐보는 저 정신 터도 아다 때네 딱섬 좀 마도 원이지 좀 해봐도 송도가 다디 유지회세디 가자 고베 때바디 지치버시다 다나 밥도가 다전에 콜로 타면 디시부 인분 더걸라 유지회세 남샤도 송네 뺏고 줄라면은 송는 시 뺏고 던 그때네 아니 뉴메 가서 다 시버디 못자인 것도가 그 정신 남다인 거지 그 정신을 서울다 제다 그 치매 뭘 깨매봐 될 때네 아니 정말 루보 이버도 조용 거 알아봐 정말 루보로 와니다 연대는 니된 실실 송샤 되게 조용 것도가 그래서 다디 유전외세 디그 치매 뭘 깨매다 봐 정신의 치매 라바 중매봐 인도잖아 다 콜로 발베거도네 전도 정신이 송샤바 되게 더 또인도잖아 담버집에 댄지기냐 못해 아다 제 차단걸로 계세 자 세리걸로 그 세점 직점 명점等于되라 지명 오리야 말이스 정신이 타고 정신이 왜 싸워지레스 근데 이번에는 딘이기 때문에 아니 고된 줘야다 더도 남진 줘야 돼 도시 줘야 것도 산지 고바사야지 예바디 도시 줘야 것도 다디 레자가 쉬운 나로로 소송이야래 다 대시 베나단 가서 대시 남샤 리베 줘야 돼 로변 초절랑보 딕나기 참에 딕나기다 간다 자르송 인데마 엔 로변 쳐자기 참한 남지 류니베 거리야 시우지 14고 정도가 아니 디마도 스텝이나 다치던 거냐 레사버지 솔레베 이진이야 이때버지 싸운다나 치성 그 잡아 대적이 네번지기 이때버지 용되게도 가 그래서 디리 이르잖아다 레자가 슝기 자 콜로 발베카도라 가자 콜로 담베카도라 den시 송샤바지 소 리베 줘야지 소레샤 어다디 아니 레자가 슝 아니 좀더 랑게 있는 까테다 아니 대다가 공지 아니 루루 yap사로 소 대다가 자샤베다 땡주르스 아주 샤대야 디디 다 할레버리 소 리베 좀니 다나샤게 비슬로이 봐 어디르샤 어제 두도 청거를 뭐 숨사 두 시기야 다디 자 리존다 콜로 당부 산지의 추기 지 가소래 지 콘데니 세티지셰 다 콘데니 세디 다 디기 에네 시보 코야 자와 미시베 체야 다 디기 미시벌 다 그게 가서 쪼르고 견제를 먹어지다 아니 데코너니를 먹어지게 왜 인도산에 tin이가로 땡중고 따와 되게 세인 거야 아래 견제기 땡중기 따에 고차네 견제를 먹어 머리 버렸어야 다디 저부줄을 알아버지 성다인 거야 알아 다 저부줄을 떠봐서도 마세 규연 저부를 떠버리스 ngô kanshi ju saage pan dogshi pan dogshi ge ngo zhuya de pan dagsha le de ne pan dogshi de zhuba ba pan dagsha me na pan dogshi de tu ma ba 대소 더 마세 ju ngo ni zhuba yina tu namji chen gyul de go ma to zhebul yong xing ma ba 그 gyul de ba yina gyu de geji ge gyu me sa o 그 랑이 geji ge gyul de na 교디 제불 보다. 저선 균제세야디 그 때네 샤야시 마도 공원이지 규르 때에 공원이지 제불 때에 메도와. 자자가 제불 규르 때에 땡중 조선데 균제기 땡중체. 다 디바바바 상당인데 귤 제불 때베다 땡주 디가나 때나 딱베 땡주 디가나 상당연데 다 대코나니는 뭐에 머리고 디세야기 고알리기도가 저다 땡중이야 균적이 땡주사지다 때나 딱베 땡중사 다 땡중니日本니지 균적 땡주도 콜로 당불거네 저는 마송 다 때나 딱베 땡주도 콜로 800거도 다 잔듯이 송여리 아니 고불로 주고 다 어디 때나 딱베 땡중 그 남샤 찌 치면다 고불로 주고 쏜들지 송고도가 삼기미 집어르셔 저 드린 인도산에다 딱 콜로를 무슨사도 세는 티단도 소치도가 그래서 콜로 담에 거도를 심人心 여서 디다 드셔 먹고 레인도산에 아니 나 람디디 조 뉴메 다 뉴머스네도 가다 심다 차라 치니 된저기 때문에 아니 심 차와디기 되기 아니 람경을 깨야지다 난절을 줄여야지 송용도가 저서 대 베나치 야 라톰부지야 자오총나 그 합칼에 또 주마와 고갈에 갈에 토로 베나 겐즈지야 또 심베이나 겐다 당군이버 숨버시버진 도사 토로 어디는시 콜로르 버숨부티도 콜로르 버숨 디슈데니 규지자가 디디 송용데 라는 데시샤 와다티 다 지기 가시고를 보게 삼바 자치중 아니 저 자치중 저 자치중 되게 캐버리 여바 인도산에 아니 도드갱 더블나래야 아니 태보 치중사 송겨래 제니 태보 치중사야디 아니 즉 삼바다 저와다 저 자치중 간의 송겨를 마도 디 뜻을 택맨 세야디 뜻을 전적 샤버를 마도 디 tor제게서 싸우는 말이 빨리 슝도 산지게 쭉 멍시 차려 팀맨아 디 레자가 슝나 송셔버디 디 고 시루고야 랑서거려 말이 그래서 디 인도 빨리 슝디 디 템베 멋지들이셔 다 디강이야 아니 산 레자가 추기 디강아 아니 디야 게르다 다 서두단제 게스톤야다 이제 서두단 그렇지래셔 어디 그렇지 저 상가를 좀 된데 냥을 됐으면 제리야 아니 태고치 못 산지가 말이 있으네 레자 산지가 말이 있으네 숨에 숙성부 중요하래 근데 인도 고불루주기 대신거로 송샤 안데디안데 오버리지트는 샴데 대신거로 송요하래 안 들지도야다 리우당부들이 저는 샴도만 대신거로 송요하래 다가는 신기 랭댕기 대신거로 송요하래 아니 잡아보면 너도 장거래 대신거로 리우지 로송도가 리우니버디베 저 송요하래 아니 랭댕기 숙성부터야래 아니 시월에 주야래 서지리 이르자네 날 야간에 태고서 이제 감 말하시는 순간인데 정도가 더럽게서 이네 지 자나가 추균증에 이제 가시게 다인 태고서 이제 감 말하시는 안라고 대낭식에 있는 상하 산지 처 말하시는 순간인데 더럽게서 이네 연대기야래 날이 이네 또 중요하래 어디 리제샤 사다와 별 강생의 종을 내 다른 시원나시 켄지 시워츠 에르 산제 배 날린지 주규 능신체는 설대바 인도산에 별 강쟁의 종을 예대로 산제가 줘야지 택보시 중 아들 저 차상하지 말이 켄지 시워츠 런이기 아니 가르사디 직도 한다 대코는 이거 잡지사 사지 가당가 라미기 람 주는 것도 켄지 시워츠 들으시도 아니 내대 뭐시버 아다 와르너시 산스크리트 유니버시티 프로페서 우버데야 그래 공 시작해봐 좀 레자 시작해봐래 공 아니 퉁고기 관리야 research nanche 디크도 디던달래 이거 배율이야 사카셰페도가 사직 배율 필요잖아요. 거기 디 palm leaf 갈이야 티셔버치기 쇼자지 공시샤 디 제제디 공수가 송윤도잖아요. 디 파발레 심기 집중해야 되래샤. 어다 파발레 심기 집중 띵알라메 드시중기요래. 어다디 쇼자지 공시샤 디 렉자기 숨시디 렉자기 좀단데 쉽게베 렉자기 좀단다 찍버레샤스 콩 렉자 캬바인도잖아요. 렉자기 숨시디 타네 아다 쇼자지 콩고 통데버디 증엔디 쉽게베 쟁에 아얀데와 이버디 짜자 다다바 다 추구도스 콩고 디송기 자 드네 콩고 디시브 드네 제네 어다 아리안데 상아 아니 셰디셰샤스 다 아리안데 상아 셰시베 이르자네 콩기 기겐 고불루르게 상아 잡아데 이니 양 코트야 샤디아레 대담에나 양아저 상아 산제베 상아 산제베 취 말이 숨에 주자기 고불루르게 찬여데베 나가 저거도 주자데 찬투버레마도 고불루르 말이 우모 자시르는 장에 어느 고불루르데 말이 쓰는 숨에도 도가 근데 숨고 주나 아니 아얀 고불루르 니샤 아얀다와레 니샤 나와 잡고레 니샤 다 타마에니 가서 주고티 켄지 부드사도다 니샤고 주르다 아니 조지 니샤고 주르 남전나도 조지 상하고 송구도가 자산이 조지 니샤고 주르 사들들인데 다 대우야 말이 조지 별로 남전 자베 남전나라 상하고 닭들 나한테 상하 철화를 쏘면도와 상하고라 가소래 추드트버시 냠니 저걸 쏘도가 자들의 인도산에 상하 라메기 저걸 해봐도 세버리 어느 상하 라메기 질 상하 저거 나가는 신기변은 택신기 저거도 저들이 아니 거두나를 멘두스 로규마와즈 팀멘두스 라베이나 디네즈 가가르샤 좀 된데 빨리 저거 송야다 지금 빨리 까되는 숨도야 생각이 용라 전에 송샤버지다 아니 좀 전에 양아는 대사를 제를 유수 정보로서 어떻게 이게 용라 전에 거두 나셔버지 차도가 그걸로 유나 그게 아래 다 시진은 너도 돼야지 강사 레다 정어로 송샤버지 마도 투무로 송샤버지 레면도가 내가 유다와디 셔되게 변은 시르님은 알아야 아니 시르보다 아니 파고 제네시 조르는 게 알아. 조르도 진지를 같이 하네. 그래서 드네 인도산에 뒤절래 마다가 아니 다베 사이 지금 나와 롱수 좀 못응이 지기 좀 된데 뭐 띵에서는 여보쇼 아니 셔르보다 아니 파고 제네시니 졸린 나베 거돌이야 될레베 있나? 아니 제네시 통모통에게 밑대기 제모통에게 밑대기 아니 셔르부 줄로 준 게 없어 통고로다. 그래야 자, 드리인데 그 간다 시르님부 나라 아니 시르보다 조르는 나요. 다른 신기 디 용bom바다 용니치다 좀 개도서 나로리아 아니 지금 참바다 자양다 아니 구산다 어떤게 아니 설비 청주서부터 주님도리아 조르는 먹는 것도 와. 자데고 뒤질라다 지글이야. 송샤바지다 뒤절라다 지금 올라 나가셔바지마도 용자전에 남매바도 세버리 사들이 이거 이르자네 용자전에 송샤바 디디 아니 실 디디 조전 조스네도 디디 실샤네 루규마즈 루규나라 메데바디 다 시엔투야르바 사들이 인도 어디야 시행과시래샤 어디르지
ये पाली परंपरा और संस्कृत परंपरा दोनों परंपराएं हैं जीव परंपराएं हैं संस्कृत परंपरा से संस्कृत परंपरा के संध निर्मोचन सूत्र में ऐसा कहा गया है संध निर्मोचन सूत्र में
So with regard to the teaching of the Buddha, of course, in the third turning of the, according to the Sandinamojana Sutra, it mentions three turnings of the wheel of the Dharma, three sermons of the Buddha, broadly speaking, and which are the teaching on the Four Noble Truths, being the first turning of the teaching of the First Noble Truth, first turning of the wheel of the Dharma, and then the Prajnaparamita Sutras being included in the second turning of the wheel of the Dharma, and Sandinamojana Sutra itself being the third turning, sutra of the third turning of the wheel of the Dharma. But mainly what we should understand is the main third turning of the wheel of the Dharma should be understood to be that of the Tathagata Garbha Sutra, which is the source of Mahayana, Maitreya's Mahayana Uttara Tantra. So in this third turning of the wheel, the Tathagata Garbha Sutra, what is mainly emphasized is the nature of the mind itself being clear light or luminous and clear or aware. And whereas in the second turning of the wheel of the Dharma, the Prajnaparamita, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, what is shown is that the nature of the mind is that of empty, and therefore, because it's the nature of the mind is empty, meaning that it doesn't have any independent objective existence as such, therefore the defilements that are on the mind are said to be temporarily there. Whereas in the third turning of the wheel, the Tathagata Garbha Sutra, it says that the nature of the mind itself is luminous, and thereby it emphasizes the subjective luminosity of the mind, whereas the second turn, the Prajnaparamita Sutras, emphasizes the objective luminosity of the nature of the mind, which is emptiness, and therefore understanding that the mind itself being devoid of any defilements from the beginning in its intrinsic nature, and we should see the possibility of overcoming the defilements from our mind. Whereas now, if we look at the three turnings of the wheel of the Dharma, the first turning, the teaching on the Four Noble Truths, is like laying a big framework or foundation for the teaching of the Buddha. And then in the second turning, the Prajnaparamita Sutras, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, what is emphasized is the objective, the ontological status of the mind, and particularly emphasizing on the cessation itself. Now, when it comes to talking about cessation, what we have to see is that cessation is that state of overcoming suffering and its origin, and therefore the suffering is biggest suffering is based on our ignorance, within which there is the ignorance about the causality, law of causality, and the ignorance about the true nature of or true reality of things. And therefore, we should understand what this ignorance is. And therefore, we should understand that the ignorance about the law of causality itself is, in turn, rooted in the ignorance about how things really are. And therefore, as I already talked about, the American psychiatrist who said that our called the negativity in someone whom we are angry at is 90% of it is our own mental projection, and therefore this kind of ignorance about causality is also called rooted in the ignorance, which is ignorance about the reality of things, which means that holding on to things having some kind of objective independent existence, and because of which we also have the notion of the wrong notion of causality and engage in the wrong process of overcoming or developing happiness. And so in the third turning of the wheel of the Dharma, it is mentioned that according to the Mahayana Uttara Tantra by Maitreya, it says the defilements that are in our mind are temporary or adventitious, whereas the qualities that we can develop, the basic quality of the mind is there naturally in us. And therefore, this is where we need to develop the cessation and the path and so forth. And so, in the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, what is shown is how to overcome the clinging to some kind of independent, true existence and things, developing the antidote to our wrong notion of the reality of things. And then in the third turning, the basic nature of the mind itself being luminous and awareness is emphasized, and therefore the defilements are not in the intrinsic nature of the mind itself. And from these two, the fact that the mind is empty or devoid of any true existence, and then the fact that the mind's nature, basic nature, is its luminosity, then we can talk about how we can overcome the defilements that are within ourselves. And therefore, when it comes to talking about the Four Noble Truths, the teaching on the Four Noble Truths, through reason and arguments, we can find that it is done very well by Master Dignaka, and in his text on the logic and epistemology, and particularly his compendium of valid cognition, and then that is further elaborated by Dharmakirti. So by studying these texts, you can give the text by Nagarjuna, Dharmakirti, and we can actually gain very firm and strong conviction in the fact that it is possible for us to overcome the defilements that are within ourselves, with regard to the Four Noble Truths, that we can overcome suffering and its origin, and that it is possible for us to actualize the true cessation within ourselves, and through the true development, cultivating the true path in ourselves. And therefore, from this, what we can understand is that the Sanskrit tradition is based on reason, and to prove the Four Noble Truths. And this is what is done in the Nalanda tradition. And therefore, we have this broad understanding of the first turning of the wheel. This is the turning, that teaching on the Four Noble Truths, laying a very broad foundation of the teaching of the Buddha, which teaches about, touches on the nature of samsara and nirvana. And then, of course, when we don't understand the causality that brings about samsara and also nirvana, we have the ignorance about the causality, law of causality. And in order to overcome that ignorance, we need also to understand, the law of causality. But then, in order to really get rid of this ignorance completely, we also need to understand that not only things, the suffering comes from its causes, not only the fact that the results come from its causes, but the cause which gives about a result, its result also is dependent on, or is in other words, relative to the effect that it brings about. And therefore, by understanding that not only the effects come from its causes, but then the causes are also dependent on its effect, we can understand how things are truly dependent on other factors, and therefore, of the two, the causality, law of causality, we can understand it through the understanding of the Four Noble Truths, which we can understand how causes bring about its results in the Four Noble Truths. And then the second, the ignorance about the true nature of things, how things really are, can be overcome by understanding how things are dependent in terms of its designation, being designated. And therefore, this is what is done well in the second turning of the wheel. And Master Nagarjuna also does that, emphasizes this, the dependence by designation as well. And then the third turning, emphasizing on the nature of the basic nature of the mind itself. And so, because of this, then because the third turning of the wheel of the Dharma and its called commentary, like Maitreya's Mahayana Uttara Tantra, emphasizes on this basic nature, then there is also a progression of the subtlety of mind. I mean, in terms of subtlety of mind, I mean, it is also explained in the Tantras as well. And so, the master, on the basis of so when it comes to making this distinction between the Mahayana and Hinayana, it is not so to show that the Hinayana practices are something we should discard, and that the Mahayana is something to be adopted, but it is on the basis of the broadness of one's attitude, one's practice, and the result.
About the Tibetan Buddhist tradition.
Some teachings are not at all to be discarded, but it must be seen as the foundation
Perhaps
of Mahayana.
I would like to take a few questions. I think one
as well as Bhaviveka, Chandrakshita, and Shandideva
is hold here
done that.
In the center. Then those people who have some questions, then come. Oh yes, that also, you see, you can put in the center. Yes?
Good afternoon, Your Holiness. Recently you had gone to Chhattisgarh and meditated in the caves in which Nagarjuna had meditated. And could you share your experiences and what did you feel about Nagarjuna meditating in those caves and your own presence there? And reading those texts there.
Oi. Cái nhầm nhố ê. Ka. Re. Because forget the Kasa Chut. Raipur, yes. Raipur, yes.
Chhattisgarh, yes.
Since my first visit there, I think the professor told me near, you see that town, one Nagarjuna's cave there, and he mentioned monsoon retreat Nagarjuna used to spend there. So as soon as I heard that, I determined I must go there as a follower or student of Nagarjuna, a great sort of thinker. So then, last year, I managed to visit in that cave. Yes, not much time, not easy to reach there. When we reach there, our energy half almost gone. So not much sort of serious meditation. So nothing sort of special. However, one occasion and near Nagarjuna Kandra, Andhra Pradesh, when I give some teaching there, before the main teaching, I also give some teaching, explanation about the Paticcasamuppada, the subtle level of Paticcasamuppada. There, while I sort of explaining, some, let's say, deeper understanding and real feeling, with feeling, you should develop. And then, of course, the Nagarjuna's philosophy, the Paticcasamuppada, the subtle level, I think since now over 60 years, I meditate or analyze daily basis. I think every day, maybe 10, 20 times, you see, thinking, or some kind of analytical meditation. So decade by decade, the experience becomes deeper, deeper, deeper. Still, I never sort of say I have sort of the real realization of that. I cannot say, but I think some deeper level understanding that I develop. So, very, very helpful. Altruism is own way to sort of combat or to tackle the self-centered attitude and the selfish, extreme selfishness, these things. The understanding about the shunyata, patita samuppada, subtle level, it's really, you see, creates sort of new outlook to everybody, to anything, right? Anything. Yourself, I mean myself, and human beings, or entire phenomena, appears independent existence. But as a result of sort of understanding about the Nagarjuna's sort of theory of emptiness, really now appears these things as a sort of mirage survey, like that. It appears something objectively exists, but with the understanding, nothing objectively exists. So these appears as an illusion or mirage, like that. So it really affects our destructive emotion, which based on ignorance. So that I can say, you see, according to my own experience, really this is not just a philosophical sort of just idea, but really affects your destructive emotion. Like that. So my own case, this is last 60 years effort. So not easy.
हेलो, तो जैसा कि प्रश्न कभी पूछा
Or
गया,
some, when I was in the cave, I didn't notice. You see, some people saw one white snake. So some people, oh, there's something significance. I don't think. There's too much superstition. Oh? Oh, yes. Nagarjuna, you see, the painting of Nagarjuna always, you see, the five snakes had. So sometimes, you see, some people ask me, why that? You see, there are some sort of stories. I didn't believe fully. But then I jokingly telling, in order to protect mosquito, so those snake is ready to eat mosquito. Of course, Nagarjuna's head seems with full hair, not like his head. Then I think mosquito, immediately go there. In fact, yesterday I joked with him. You see, if mosquito come in my room, I will tell mosquito, go there. One my friend, you see, his head is ready to serve blood. Yes, that's it.
तो अभी ये प्रश्न पूछा गया कि परम पावन जी रायपुर में एक गुफा है, नागार्जुन की गुफा, तो वहाँ आपको जाकर के कैसा अनुभव हुआ, उसके बारे में ये प्रश्न किया गया। परम पावन जी बता रहे हैं कि वहाँ पर एक प्रोफेसर थे, तो उन्होंने बताया कि इस एरिया में, इस क्षेत्र में नागार्जुन की एक गुफा है और नागार्जुन यहाँ पर मानसून के दौरान आया करते थे और ध्यान भावना या यहाँ पर निवास करते थे। तो मैं नागार्जुन का अनुयायी होने के नाते, उनका एक चेला होने के नाते मैं भी वहाँ देखने के लिए गया। हालांकि जाना काफ़ी मुश्किल था, लेकिन फिर भी वहाँ पर किसी प्रकार से मैं पहुँचा। तो ऐसा भी कुछ लोगों ने कहा कि वहाँ पर नागर उस गुफा में एक सर्प था। तो सर्प मैंने तो नहीं देखा, शायद हो सकता है कि वहाँ एक सफ़ेद सर्प था। तो अभी कि जैसा कि लोग कहते हैं कि उनके, कुछ लोग ऐसा भी पूछते हैं कि नागार्जुन के 5 सर क्यों थे। तो मैं मजाक में कहता हूँ कि शायद उनको मच्छर न काट पाए, मच्छर को काटने से बचने के लिए शायद ये 5 सर होंगे। तो प्रत्येक सांप वो मच्छर को काट लेता होगा, इत्यादि बातें। नागार्जुन कुंडा में टीचिंग के में जब धर्म उपदेश दे रहा था, तो उस दौरान मैंने प्रतीत समुत्पाद पर व्याख्या दे रहा था, व्याख्या दी। लगभग मुझे 60 वर्ष हो चुके हैं। मैं हर बार 60 वर्षों से मैं प्रतीत समुत्पाद अर्थात शून्यता का अभ्यास करता आ रहा हूँ। और रोज़ लगभग 10 या 20 बार मैं जो विपश्यना है उसके बारे में अभ्यास करता हूँ और प्रतीत समुत्पाद के जो सिद्धांत हैं उसका अभ्यास करता हूँ। तो हालांकि मुझे कोई ख़ास अनुभव नहीं हुआ, मैं ऐसा नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि मैं काफ़ी पहुँचा हुआ इंसान हूँ, मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा अनुभव नहीं हुआ है, लेकिन ऐसा करने से, इस प्रकार का अभ्यास करने से मुझे काफ़ी लाभ हुआ है, मुझे संतुष्टि हुई है। तो इसके द्वारा जो स्वार्थ की भावना है वो नष्ट होती है, अहंकार की भावना नष्ट होती है और दूसरों को मदद करने की एक हमारे अंदर जो भावना है वो उत्पन्न होती है। तो इस प्रकार के जो अभ्यास से स्वयं तो फ़ायदा होता ही है, दूसरों को भी फ़ायदा होता है। शून्यता को समझने से जितनी भी चीज़ें, जितने भी धर्म हैं वो स्पष्ट हो जाते हैं, उनके प्रति हमारी जो सोच है वो अच्छी हो जाती है, स्पष्ट हो जाती है। हालांकि जितने भी चीज़ें हैं जो हम समझते हैं कि उनका अस्तित्व वास्तव में है, उनका अस्तित्व वास्तव में नहीं होता है, वो अपने तरफ से स्वतंत्र नहीं होती हैं। तो जब हम प्रतीत समुत्पाद अर्थात शून्यता को समझते हैं तो उसकी जो अस्तित्वता है उसको ठीक से समझ सकते हैं। जो हमारे बुरे विचार हैं, बुरी भावना हैं, वो हमारे बुरे विचार हमारे क्लेश की वजह से आते हैं, हमारे अंदर बुरे क्लेश उत्पन्न होते हैं, इस वजह से दुर्विचार हमारे अंदर उत्पन्न होते हैं। तो ये सारी की सारी चीज़ों को अर्थात क्लेशों को नष्ट करने के लिए इस प्रकार की जो भावना है, इस प्रकार के जो विपश्यना या साधना है, मैं रोज़ अभ्यास करता हूँ। तो इससे लाभदायक है, इससे फ़ायदा मिलता है। ये ऐसा ही नहीं है कि केवल ये मुझे ही फ़ायदा मिलते है, सारे लोगों को फ़ायदा मिलती है। जहाँ तक मैं अपना उदाहरण दूँ तो ये अभ्यास करने से आया है। 60 वर्ष तक इसका अभ्यास करने के बाद ही ऐसा अनुभव हुआ है कि मुझे इसका अभ्यास करने से कुछ लाभ हुआ है।
Next question. Come here. Yes.
Yeah, can I ask
I think 10.
Yeah.
Perhaps 10 people who have some question, just come here. Yes.
Okay, in my early days, I knew Buddhism as just plain Buddhism. But lately I know that there are various sects in Buddhism. It is Mahayana is there, Theravada is there, Vajrayana. Now this is added to my confusion and I don't know, one, what is the difference? Two, if I have to follow Buddhism, which of the sects do I need to follow?
Karsa. I think firstly, in order to make food, you need different sort of the substance, ingredients, and prepare well. Then actual sort of they make food. Then there are kurim. Order. So all material is put there, not the way. So similarly, knowing all these sort of the materials and the whole structure, then actual sort of practice. Now usually we call Atisha Dibumgara Gara sort of said London. You see, he sort of advised the practice the way step by step. So then I think best explanation like Lama Tsongkhapa's Lamrin Chamo, very good. However, unless you know the kasate, taking on the Pindu Judungi, she needs you Dini leg dog sing. Then she call on Judo because Sushi shits. Seven Changbe, Gibson Taba, then Talam Sao Super Chingy said that so delicious. Right. Shaya, the Lamrim Nala, the Sunshagi, Jamdru di Kiu Chungu want to say Jamdru. Sanjay Tumu be Jamdu Chatuya Mare. Sanjay Tumu be Jamdu Chayati, Denshi, Kon Judo, Shebe, Guane, any Chokunjo, Washington Chane. Te Dungan get double Sanjay Chane. Gada Choy Yang de Watchebetone. Te didn't be Chokunjo de da. She won the Jada Teve Chudi, Watchebajida. Te Dungan get Dumbate, any Tenshi sing the Lexumba, Sadi Imbachi. Tenshi Damba, Sadi Imbachi, Shiva Chane. Any Sanjay Joson Roya, then a Kinduli Joson Roya, Teddy with Tekonani, turn one to Judebatella, Kindukujo, Slavshabata, then again, Chosum, Montavajitani Joson Roya, that day, Sanjay jumped on Machadi. She never to Jibba, Telejobe, any never Kunjola each of Kunjola Yoba each in Tabasati, Paji, Machanation tomorrow, some Mudibale Yore. Ishi Chabazine, Kanda Tungi Tungele, Kunjogi Tebrisani, Kasurbi, Yijida, and Kunjola Sechita, Lotechin, Rodigarwa. So that the China Tumo Paji, Shatur Sangi. So the Indu, Sanjebe, Tamdro, Salon, Duji Tungela Tone, Tele, Tarve, Tarbala, Motreni, Tarbat, Dindri Chokunjola, Demnerzi. Dindri Chokunjo, Tangangi, Tambati, and a Tambalana Baba. Teaching to be Gindudi, and Kasuri, Tabat to be a talk, Lana Machivi, but that this ship is good. So then Lemrim Nala, dear Savashana Yamari. When it's a Penelorimisham Shashabina, given Dingy, got a Tinshin Namsha Modernaya, T, Nyan Lanche. But German is soon be so. Tetanas, Tambashini, Tewachi Hangakosuya, Catchamushan Sunyaris, such a day in Duzane, any Casa Loma TV, Zimbaya, two Tetato Chala, says to her, Lunichiminal. The German the Lamjung Javacha de Duzane, to small Kurim did temperature, got on Commodus so on a shin in the J. So that the day in doing other thing, Asia daddy. At the Tendig, Gatam Shumboa, Chidandi, Pajit Nessa, the Dirisamgi. The Modojanalaria, Drudan Tamba, Nanda, the Sajalas of Kunjosum, Sag, Kurum dinner in a Tiadi, Gatam Shumbo Chidan Trisha. Gatam Shumbo Chidan Digitane, any Casol, but Tepa, that Tepa Chizungi, Chik Jamdrudan, G Nesuti, Shemshet. Then we should go back to Let Abobala, Tungi Tungi, so Chenny. And the college in the Jefferson River, you Senata to Sunshadi. I cannot explain through my broken English, so I have to rely a translator. Now translate.
तो अभी ये इनका प्रश्न था कि मैं बचपन में
Did I?
श्रद्धा के अनुसार शरण का मन जाना सभी धर्मों में समान रूप से है। सभी लोग अपने अपने धर्म को जो
Sorry. So what was His Holiness was teaching in Tibetan basically was that he mentioned that in order to understand the teaching, in order for us to take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, we really need to understand what the teaching of the Buddha is and how to cultivate, integrate those teachings within ourselves so that we are well introduced into the teaching, well introduced to the teaching itself. And by understanding the real Dharma itself, which is this principle of which actually we develop within ourselves to lead us out of samsara, suffering and its origin, then you see the truth in the teaching of the Buddha himself, and then you see the teacher himself as being someone infallible in giving such teachings. And when you admire and take refuge in the Buddha like that, then you also begin to see those who actually put his teachings into practice sincerely are the Sangha community. And it's not only that we should take refuge in the Buddha by saying, as it is usually taught, that the samsara, we should fear the terror of samsara and in general, and then the lower realms of existence in particular, and then see the Buddha Dhamma and as Sangha and Sangha having the power to lead us out. But we should and then take refuge in the teacher and then also the Sangha. And that is actually what Master Tsongkhapa also mentions in his Lamrim chapter.
Also the preparation for next good life, so that life after life we can practice continuously. Then the Shantadeva's 6th chapter, practice how to deal with anger, hatred. It's very, very helpful. Then 8th chapter, how to develop infinite altruism. And then Nagarjuna's the first chapter of Ratnamala also include about shunyata. That's the method to achieve nirvana. So these are the basic practice. I myself also practice these daily basis. Even including dream, I analyze these things. So that's then some sort of the Tantrayana practice come later, no hurry. Without this, like food without salt. So no matter how you say, beautiful sort of good material, without salt, no taste. Like that. So these two things, my own sort of daily practice of altruism, practice of wisdom which understand the ultimate reality. That is shunyata, the high form of anatma. Okay, next question.
I'm blessed to be here and I love you. My question is, in your first session, you mentioned about how the education system should be and how to create a joyous community. So we are working on a similar principles at the outskirts of Pune. We have a school, ashram and community where all parents and we have come together and we have started a school. So if I invite you, would you visit us? That is my question.
Yes, of course. I love visit different places.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So please keep contact. It's my office.
Yes.
And then I think occasionally I visit South India because this is the major Buddhist institution established in Karnataka state. So occasionally, I think this winter also I'm going there. So then you mentioned Pune.
Yeah, it's at outskirts of Pune, not in the city. It's on
that's okay. That's
hilltop.
okay.
Yeah.
From one, you see, monastic institution. I think few hours drive, Pune.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I will see.
Thank you very much.
Oh. If that visit materialize, then not simply, you see, my talk and then finished. Not that way. Some serious discussion. Then very good.
That's what I'm looking forward for.
Very good. Then maybe I also, you see, ask some sort of scholars also join with that meeting. Then could be useful. Something practical, not just idea. Most of my talk, just like idea. So those experienced teachers, then they come together, then some realistic sort of concrete plan can develop. Like that. Okay.
Hello, I'm a disciple and I seek your blessings. And I wanted to ask you if you can give us some of tips which you use in your own meditations to help us improve our practice.
Karsa? Not clear. Oh. The clear instruction for meditation, both single-pointed meditation and analytical meditation, the Kamalashila, main disciple of Shanta Rakshita, who also carries some heated discussion with some Chinese scholars in Tibet. So his Gumrim, that I think useful. And then there are many books, you see, the detailed sort of explanation or instruction, the meditation. I don't know, available in Hindi or in English translation, that I don't know. So, one difficult thing is you have to learn Tibetan. That's difficult. But some books, if you're really serious, then you can keep contact with my sort of office. Then we can send some books about meditation. Okay. Yes, next question.
Yeah, Your Holiness, I have heard one story about
and
you.
And then also, I think you can inquire some books from Sanat Institution, and also the Tibetan libraries, Dharmasala. You will get some books. Okay.
Yes, Your Holiness, I heard one story about you that while you were having one gathering, one of the monk comes and he tells you that the Chinese have killed many of the Tibetan monks. And at that time, you tell everybody, let's stand up and pray for the Chinese soldiers. So I just want to ask, how is it possible for you, for any person, when the people are killing our own people and we have so much of compassion and love for the opponents? How is it possible to develop, and is it possible for everybody to develop?
That you should read and meditate 6th chapter, which explanation come, I think, tomorrow or day after tomorrow, like that. You read that. So after all, you see, use common sense. Yeah. Someone, you see, done something negative, and then let anger any help to solve the problem. Look, Palestine and Israel problem. Since 48, you see, violence, counter-violence, that way. Even American policy regarding Iraq, violence, counter-violence. And now, latest, Syria. Then they now, in Nigeria, these problems. Then also the Ukrainian problems. The violence never sort of work properly. Once you committed violence, then unexpected sort of consequences always happen, no matter what your motivation and your goal is something right. I know Mr. Bush, a wonderful person. His motivation, I'm quite 100% sure, very good motivation. Good aim, but method use force. So unexpected consequences also happen. So therefore, violent method is outdated. We should not sort of thinking about violence. So that's our sort of firm conviction. Then I always was telling regarding the Tibetan problem, our sort of way to carry this struggle is to see a sort of struggle between power of truth with compassion, power of gun with anger or distrust, fear. So we believe power of truth based on compassion, as I mentioned earlier, transparent, consistency, right? No? See, at the beginning, maybe weak, but the strength or power of truth always remain. Power of gun, short period. Short term, decisive, but long term, weak. And it is quite natural. So, use force, violence, counter-violence. And violence creates more hatred here. Hatred is the source of problem. So only proper way solving problem or conflict is talk and reduce the other sort of intensity of negative emotion. And through talk, reduce suspicion, fear, and sort of hot sort of temper way. Then go down. That's the only way. That's the human way. So we believe that, so we also implement these things. Like that.
Thank you.
Next question.
मैं हिंदी में पूछना चाहता हूँ.
Yes, Hindi. Oh, okay.
जो भगवान बुद्ध को जो ज्ञान प्राप्त हुआ,
Closer.
जो महात्मा बुद्ध को जो ज्ञान प्राप्त हुआ, ये छोटे से बड़े लोग कहते हैं, या अनाड़ी से लेके बड़े पढ़ाई तक कहते हैं, मगर उनको ज्ञान प्राप्त हुआ इसका मतलब उनको क्या मिला? ज्ञान प्राप्त हुआ इसका मतलब उनको क्या मिला?
हाँ, लेकिन ज्ञान प्राप्त हुआ क्या मिला?
Hasa. Marwa. 디 치드 진이 된 캠바 쓰는 샤기 거베조디 디 심부 장리바 녀랑가야 예코메스네 어디 송샤다 디기 간다 지 시지 켄야가 된다라 람고마 말바 샹라 팬 독발라 아니 팬 독세 유기 캄다 메바 발라니 디디 셔워바 캄다 메바 발라니 디디 셰베타네 대다 3배 다 랑도네 던셔버스 거라 딘디 인도잖아 지도와 캠바장 거 미셔고 진입을 캔거야 대토도
तो जैसा कि प्रश्न पूछा गया कि भगवान बुद्ध ने ज्ञान प्राप्त किया.
And so, with regard to the understanding or the insight that the Buddha gained, it is said in Pramanavartika that we have no need of someone who knows how many insects and bugs there are, the number of bugs and so forth. But what he says, what is needed to understand is that we need to understand when you become enlightened, you need to understand how things are exactly, and then also need to understand the different mental dispositions in order to help others.
Without harming from the wild beings.
가사. 낭설 주브리스. I don't know. They dijare. Kasa chambe koja ji sa jo. De ko su men na kasa. chambe pungi diji jomba saji. Chana tadi jiri ini jig sumi mimayi di chambe pungi pa da kasore duwa. Dindidigi per gyulu chamba top chimbo yungaji bayina chi be semjeng nösi diye pejir miyong resha. Di ngay nga da ngoshiba di yo. Nganya chanegi pige da gom diwni chwe nyamni chingi di de. Kodo dus rili ya jigo dus de de jig jansem de ge kone chili chune yungmin dusa. Yang rili yombe kodo le 또 잡아 검지 되도 가게 지금은 누스. 땡 나랑 50을 드셔요.
जैसा प्रश्न पूछा कि
So it is very important to understand the power of affection. When you have a very powerful, when your affection, compassion, love are very powerful, then the external harms will not be any obstacle to you. They will not be able to harm you, like the wild animals and so forth. Some of my friends who are meditators have told me that they can hear some animals, wild animals, making noise around their place. But then when they meditate on loving kindness and compassion, they are not. These animals do not come near them at all. And so this is what happens. And even if when some animals are nearby, when they meditate on loving kindness, they're not harmed.
His Holiness. I want to ask you, like in Buddhism, Jainism, and in Hinduism, the common thing is about rebirth or moksha or nirvana, liberation. Now, in Jain and Hinduism, they believe Atma or Atman, which after the death takes the rebirth or gets liberated, nirvana. But Buddhism differs in Anatman, which is understood that there is a no soul. Then what gets liberated after the death or what gets rebirth after the death?
As I mentioned,
the concept of Anatman, I'm not that clear, because I was just wondering that if there is a no Atma like concept in Buddhism, then what's get liberated? After Lord Buddha also got liberated, or there is a rebirth also.
Yes. So. As I mentioned this morning, the Buddhism not at all denying existence of self. Self is there. But the entity of self is just a mere designation. It appears on our mind something solid, there. That's the illusion. If we investigate, we can't find. Even the basis of self is human self is human body and human mind. Human body, analyze, you can't pinpoint this is human body. Everything particle, like quantum physics now. Human mind also, no sort of charge chameba. Ine junjicha. Zada junjicha ba say you take it Kada 강사 강도 독배 시 류를 차샤네 바자유는 니아메등에 셰베 규를 때는 딱고 인도전에 셰베 규디 자나 니아메데버지 자들이 인도전에 풍몽하고 대다 짱을 신기도 만나봐 따오신 제로님은 손샤들이 강사 원이지 뭐르바 정도 마세 강사 강도 독배 시 풍몽하고 대다 짱 따도잖아 니아요 말이지 다들전에 많이 봤지 매백해 좀 말해 요레스 여당데 가르스는 때네 딱섬시리스 다들이 다 때네 딱섬기 셰바요레 때네 딱섬기 류요레 땐될 때네 딱배 강사 때는 딱 강사요. 된대기 강사티 타마의 매 네바나를 통해 되리. 경험실행에 되리. 또 셈슬럼나 락벨류 다 락바 루브르베 류드셈 차웨 류드셈 뇽메 류드셈 신도 차와지 샤야래.
तो जैसा कि हम जानते हैं कि जो चित्त है उसकी संतति बराबर होती रहती है, लेकिन संतति इतनी सूक्ष्म है उसको.
So with regard to the mind, of course, it has its continuity, although it doesn't have any extension in terms of some space or anything like that. And so the Heart Sutra says even the five aggregates are empty of any inherent existence. So what it means is that although the self or the person mind exists, but when you try to search for the mind and trying to look for some entity which is independent, existent, and so forth, but then you will not be able to find so. And so what that means is it doesn't mean that the mind is not there, but on the basis of the mind, that we have designation of a person, and then accordingly, because of that designated nature
Only
of the person or mind, then we can talk about past and future lives or nirvana and so forth. Within the mind and body, there is
ahimsa, like
the coarse, subtle, and the very subtle.
Is very strict about vegetarian.
That's right.
I don't know. I'm not so learned about Buddhism, but in Buddhism, I have heard that certain followers. Even non-vegetarian is accepted. So I wonder, when the ahimsa is main like Jainism, then the non-vegetarian is the reason because of geographically it is accepted because it's spread throughout the world, or is it the Lord Buddha has permitted to eat non-vegetarian?
This is, I think, almost 1,000 years of some discussions. The Baba Bhikkhu also, you see, discuss about that. Now, basically, in Buddhist Vinaya teaching,
by Viveka,
not prohibited eating meat. Any meat which you can see or you can doubt anyone, especially killed for you, that should not accept. So strictly Buddhist monk, one time I discussed with one Sri Lankan Buddhist monk. He told me, Buddhist monk, neither vegetarian nor non-vegetarian. Reason, no private kitchen. Taking baking bowl, arms full. Whatever they get, one vegetarian sort of family give vegetarian food, should accept. Non-vegetarian family give you non-vegetarian food, you should accept. That's Vinaya. According to Vinaya, like that. So, Thai Buddhist monk, Sri Lanka Buddhist monk, most of the Buddhist monk is like that. Then, some Buddhist Sattva, Mahayana sort of text, some completely prohibited. So, many Chinese Buddhists, very strict vegetarian. And Vietnamese also is a vegetarian. And some flexible, like that. And Japanese also, you see some very strict vegetarian. Then some text in Bodhisattva, you see, not very strict. So we, as a Buddhist, in our settlement, right from the beginning, we did not start pickery, fishery, and poultry. Market, some meat available, then okay. But purposely, you see, killing is completely sort of stop like that. So then all major monasteries, they are common kitchen. Now last, I think, I think 10, 15 years, most of the major monasteries common kitchen now stop serving meat. So completely vegetarian food. Then also you see many different centers in Europe, in America, you see, we urge them as a sort of, how should they, some kind of festival or something should serve pure vegetarian. Then individual, up to them, like that. So it is right. So we totally sort of committed promoting vegetarianism. Like that. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Then I think myself, 1965, I become vegetarian. Next 20 months. Then develop jaundice problem. So my sort of the nails, eyes, and the whole body become yellow. So because of hepatitis. So later I describe jokingly, at that time I truly become living Buddha. Whole body yellow, become yellow. So then, I think in 1966 or 67, then you see Tibetan physician, Kasachoti, allopathic sort of physician. They both suggest to me I should return the original the diet like that. So then, meanwhile, we committed fully the promotion of vegetarianism. The promoter himself still remain non-vegetarian. Of course, you see, not daily basis, twice a week, like that. Then big hotel available, then okay, all right. And my own kitchen, basically my own kitchen, not serving non-vegetarian food, like that. Then me, twice a week, like that. Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.